Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Agile Coaching Exchange. We're really pleased tonight to welcome Noel Warnell, who is, if you've been with us for a long time, you may have seen him before, speak to us about some of his favorite subjects. When I approached Noel a few weeks ago, the first thing he said to me was he wanted to talk about metrics. And I don't know about many of you, but this is I was going to say like a kryptonite thing for me, metrics, not because Noel's subject is something we shouldn't talk about, but how many times do you go into businesses and people are measuring stuff that isn't really measuring what they think it's measuring?
Mhm.
And how many times do you go into departments that are organized around a whole value system that when you look at the numbers and the things that are underpinning it, lacks value? So when Noel approached you about this, I thought that's absolutely brilliant. And when he gave me the title and it was aligned with Noel's book, Agile Bullshit, and the cards, I was like, we've got to get him here. So I'm really, really pleased to welcome into him tonight. So I'd like to again just introduce Noel Warnell and please give him a very warm ACE welcome or round of applause. Thank you.
Oh, blimey. I'll take the applause now because I might not get it at the end. Um, Thanks for the intro, Ben. Yeah, nice to be back and see some friendly faces for sure. I will share some slides in a minute, but let's just jump straight in. And what I'd like you to do in the chat is to put in one metric that you think is complete bullshit. Just the name. So in the chat, one metric that you think is bullshit. Oh, velocity, story points, man days, percent complete. Oh, lines of code. Blimey, I haven't seen that for a long time. Do people still measure that? Pull requests per dev. Oof. Whip. Okay, some similar stuff starting to come through. We'll hold the thought on these and come back to them later on. But I'm also interested in the flip side. So, what is a metric that your organization tracks religiously, but actually does something useful with it? And again, just one metric and the name of it on its own is fine. So, add that in the chat as well. Interesting. Velocity's come up again. Someone's put it in as a bullshit thing, and someone else has put it in as it gets measured religiously and we do something useful with it. Story points. Monte Carlo, nice. Okay, yeah, cycle time, cycling the business process. NOS, what's NOS? What's that one? I think Idris, you put that. Not familiar with that particular one, unless you mean NPS, but okay, good. We will come back to this in a minute. Let me share my screen and jump in with the presentation. 1 second. And get there in the end. Can you see my screen? No? All right, 1 second. How about now? Yes, good. All right, we've got some thumbs up. Okay, so this is what we're talking about today. All right, let me present you with the first charts. These are all real charts. I will not reveal the clients, but I will reveal the real reason for the change on these charts. But before I do that, you are going to have a chat about it in smaller groups because I know it can be daunting to talk in large groups. So, Ben, that's your nod in the background to set up the breakout rooms. Um, and yeah, I'm interested. Like at first glance, just while Ben's setting that up, at first glance, what do you see? What is this telling you? See, Kerry, you've come off mute. What do you think?
Defects are down, but probably don't tell the whole story.
Hmm. Okay. Anyone got anything else or something different?
Well, it's telling you that the some aspect of the count of defects is falling, but without any context, I don't know what it
Mm.
means.
Yeah. Great. So that's exactly what I'd like you to do when you go into the breakout room is to have a conversation about what might this be telling us, but also what might we want to know in addition to this to help give us that context. What are some other questions we might ask, or even what are some other data or charts that we'd want to see alongside this to help us with that picture? So you're going to have 5 minutes in the breakout room. So you give you a chance to say hello to each other. And yeah, what is this telling you? What's it not telling you? What questions does it make you ask? What other data do you want that would give you more context? Welcome back, everybody. So let's hear something from each of the rooms just to share a sentiment of what came up in the conversation. Anyone can go.
Well, we discussed that any metrics could be bullshit if we don't have enough information around it.
Aha. Okay, nice. What was there anything specific about this chart that you would want to know more about or you'd want to see alongside this data?
Yeah, quite a lot. From what I remember in our group, first of all, we don't know what that means. Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? So defects, like, is it defects found? Is it defects resolved? You
Doesn't
know,
matter. It's defects. They're down. Like hundreds of defects are down. That's a good thing. All right. Always.
well, we were not sure about that. So
Yeah.
yeah, basically that. We also don't know the reasons around it.
Mm.
So yeah, quite a lot. Please, I think group 4,
Okay.
if you want to add anything.
Yeah. Thank you, Alex, for being the brave person to come off mute and share with the whole group first. Um, yeah. Anyone else from any of the other rooms? What would you
I
like
think
to add?
I think similar, the data in itself tells you almost nothing. It tells you what's happened. It doesn't tell you anything to do with the why. It gives you no clue whatsoever as to the
Hmm.
why. So
Hmm.
unless you understand the why, you don't even know if it's positive or negative.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, any metric in its own right is something where that you should proceed with caution. If someone just presents a single metric, that to me is always a question of finding out more information. So, in terms of this chart, some of the things that maybe came up in the room is it could show that code quality is improving massively. Frank joined just while you were in the breakout room, and we had a brief discussion about it. He noticed how high the defect numbers were originally, and for a decent period of time, seven odd hundred defects. That's a lot. This was a system of 6 development teams, so it's still pretty high. But you obviously didn't know how many teams we're talking about. It could indicate that there's been a movement towards more shift left on testing. Retros are becoming really powerful. The releases are becoming more stable, or even the use of AI is accelerating test automation coverage. Any of those things could be true. It could also be true that actually this product isn't releasing as quickly as it was before. Um, the QA capacity has been cut, so there's less people testing. It could be that these defects are being reclassified, or even that this organization or product has lost a ton of customers. So, quite right, a lot of things could be true here. Um, I'll tell you what is true, and that is that across these 6 teams, the product owners were asked to go into their backlogs and delete any tickets older than 18 months. So that was what actually happened, um, which is just pure housekeeping, Jira hygiene. So that baseline number, that starting figure was just nonsense to start with. But good, you're getting the sense of where we're going with this presentation. But the other common things that could be good to look alongside this kind of chart is release frequency, customer usage data, looking at the number of support tickets, Frank also mentioned around the severity of the defects. That's not clear here. Is it that actually all of the low-hanging fruit has been sorted, but we've still got some massive issues with the quality and the product? So yes, there is a correlation here with defects going down over time. Absolutely no correlation to the reason why. Okay. What let me go back a slide if I can figure out how. Yeah, there we go. So what kind of category would you describe like defects? Like what kind of category of metrics would you call that in where you work?
Quality.
Yeah, quality. What else? Maybe come under delivery or that kind of stuff. But this is often a trap that we fall into, and certainly in the agile community I've been guilty of this myself, and I've seen it in many organizations, that we really put a preference towards that kind of process type metrics, and what's going on in terms of lead time, flow, things like that. But what we should be aiming for is a more balanced view. What we should be aiming for is looking at different elements in combination with each other. So this is just a gentle reminder that this is a balanced scorecard, which is quite a well-known framework. But when you're looking at metrics in an organization, if you're responsible for creating metrics, just check in that you're not focused in only one of these boxes, because then you are not telling the full story. Is there any questions on this balanced scorecard? I appreciate there's quite a lot of words on that slide, but okay. Let's go again then.
Sorry, Noel. Sorry, Noel. I couldn't get off mute quickly enough. So I noticed on the balance scorecard, do you make links back to corporate targets and strategies? So
great question.
So it gives it straight link to customer at the door.
Great question. You can use the balance scorecard at all levels of an organization. And it should be used at the senior exec level. It will just be the time horizon that will be different. So they'll probably have a similar scorecard, similar categories, maybe even similar metrics, but they're looking probably at the 3 to 5 year horizon, depending on the size of the company and where they are in their life cycle. Whereas in that coordination layer, if you're familiar with flight levels, that kind of middle layer, they'll probably be looking over the next 6 to 12 months. And at the team level, probably just the next kind of month or two, at the most a quarter. But there's also a really interesting thing that I was having a conversation with someone yesterday about how a balanced scorecard and OKRs work really well together, but not going to get into that today.
Thanks.
Yeah. But that's also another trap to watch out for. If you start talking about a balanced scorecard at whatever level you're operating and it's meeting blank faces, it's probably not a common terminology or a common framework that's being used elsewhere. So try and find what is being used and start with that. Okay, so we're going to do another round of breakouts. Ben, if you've got the opportunity to sort of randomize the people in the rooms again, that would be great. If you're someone who's outside or in a public space and you can't come off mute, then you're welcome to just stay in the main room. But the scenario here is that a leader presents this to a group of teams and says, we are shipping 40% more over this quarter, and we are clearly creating more value. Well done. What I want you to do in your breakout rooms is discuss that and actually come up with a list of questions to help qualify that attribution that the leader is making to, we're doing more, therefore we must be creating more value. Welcome back. Let's hear, if possible, from a couple of different people as to what came up in your conversations this time round. Anyone from any of the rooms can share anything.
I failed to learn the lesson from the first breakout, but in both sessions, I forgot what the graph looked like and couldn't get back to it. So after 4 minutes, I was imagining what the original graph looked like.
How did your memory serve you?
Oh, yeah. I had the rough shape. I'd forgotten the title.
Maybe because there will be one more chart. So maybe if you need to grab a pen and pencil, you
Screenshot.
can.
That's it.
I'm happy to go and share some of the things that we were talking about. So again, there's context missing here, right? And there's what does throughput mean to this either team or company, and does throughput mean the same thing to all of the teams within this chart? And then with we spoke about the kind of ups and downs. I was saying that this actually kind of reminds me of some of the teams that I've been working with recently, where there may be downtime with environments every now and again, and that might have an impact of actually being able to to get through work, because you don't have anywhere to test it. We spoke about what does throughput mean. Is it releases? Is it actually throughput, number of tickets, stories, whatever that might be? Does it include bugs, etc.? So there's lots of variables, lots of different things that this could indicate. And again, we spoke about the increases, and it's quite a sharp increase from 4 up to 18. And I guess when you're looking at that average, like shoots straight up, and it could be this is a gameable metric, right? And this could be an organization or an area that are using OKRs to base kind of performance based bonuses. It's easily gameable for teams to start really kind of breaking stories down into really, really small things to say, well, look, we're doing more work. It has no indication of value, right? Just because throughput is number of items you're getting through. We don't know if they're releasing anything as well. But just because you're increased your throughput doesn't mean actually that you've increased any value whatsoever. It's there's no indication of that. So
Yeah, fantastic. What a great summary. Yeah, you can come with me if I get asked to do this talk at a future place, because yeah, fantastic observations from yourself and obviously everyone else that was in the room as well. But yeah, absolutely spot on. It's the same things, it's the same traps. It could signal some really good stuff is happening, that there's been a real focus on bottlenecks being removed. The teams are getting better because the trend is really positive over this time period. It could be that flow efficiency has been an area of focus, predictability is improving, or even just the skill and the knowledge of the people in the teams is increasing, which is leading to more work being done. But it also may well be hiding a whole bunch of stuff around maybe technical debt. Maybe there's more releases happening, but actually the teams are being put under pressure to get stuff out the door. And aside from this, the backlogs are starting to explode with technical debt and rework. Could be, you mentioned around work items getting smaller. Yes, I advocate for that, of course. But if you move to that from something different, that will have an impact on the metrics and needs to be part of your commentary. It could also be that they're just picking the easy stuff, and that is why over time it's getting better, because they're avoiding complex work. And it could also be here that customer adoption has tanked. So no one's using the product. Shit, we better get some more. Let's get more features out quick and try and get these users into the product. In terms of what I recommend that you look at this alongside, and these are just some options, there's loads of others, but this is probably a good one to look at with defect trends, because if this is going up and the defects are also going up, you've got a problem. Cycle time scatter plot will give you a different angle around some of the flow metrics. Feature adoption rate taps into customers. And actually here we can start to look at some of that commercial stuff as well to say, okay, if we're getting more stuff out and our throughput is increasing, so what? What's the benefit to the business? What's the revenue that's being generated? What's the number of more additional customers that we're gaining based on the previous month or year or whatever? But very, very good. Okay. What actually happened here was that at this point, I'm not sure if you can see a pointer on the screen, can you? But at the highest point, oh no, not that one. Can you see my cursor on the screen? Probably not.
Yeah, we can.
Oh, you can. Great. All right, good. Yeah. So at this point here, 2 new teams were introduced into this department. And at that point, you can see throughput actually reduced massively. And it took almost 3 months for them to get back to the point where they had the same throughput as previous. And that is common when I'm sure you've seen this, where you introduce new people into a single team, or certainly if you introduce whole new teams, actually it creates a delay. It creates a bit of a downward curve initially while those people are getting up to speed, getting the right kit, understanding the products, getting all the right access and everything. So this was absolutely no reflection on value to customer, new customers, releases. This was purely down to actually resources and capacity available within the organization. What I can say is that it is now continuing to go on a decent upward trend as those teams are maturing and they are gaining momentum. But jolly good. All right. So this is another kind of process flow type chart. So let's switch it up and have a look at customers. So look at this. Nearly a 0.7 increase in customer NPS over 12 months. Just to quick check, do people understand what customer NPS is? Or do you want me to quickly explain it?
Quickly explain, please.
Yeah, so it stands for Net Promoter Score. And this is where your customers are asked a set of questions that ultimately boil down to, would you recommend this product to one of your colleagues or friends? And they rank it, I think, between 1 and 10, and you get your detractors and your promoters. And they use that and they retest on a regular basis to see how they're trending. Is that clear? Yeah. Okay, good. All right. So, Ian, hopefully you've had time to grab a screenshot or sketch this out, but this will be your final breakout. On the surface, this all looks great. But what might be going on here? Or what might this chart not be telling us? Final breakout when you're ready, Ben. Welcome back, everybody. All right, let's do our final playback from the rooms. What did you talk about?
We talked about we don't know how many people filled out the survey. We don't know if who filled out the survey changed over time. And we also would like to see in the same time frame where bug reports or customer complaints coming in, are they telling us a similar story to this or a different story to this?
Yeah.
But we thought it is maybe more encouraging that it's a continual trend that's more gradual, whereas some of the other graphs we were looking at were more anomalies that we were picking out. So this is maybe, it depends on those other pieces of data, but this could be a more promising graph.
I love your optimism.
So was there some level of inducement as well on the survey?
Great question. Yeah, did they incentivize people to take the survey? And yeah, that's a great question. Yeah. Anything else from any of the other rooms?
We thought we'd quite like to see when the releases went out, because we wondered whether the increases in Net Promoter Score corresponded to new features becoming available.
Love it. Yeah, this is great. The way that you guys are thinking about this now and talking about it is fantastic, because that's exactly the bee in the bonnet that I've had for some time about metrics is just that, yeah, what originally I had a problem that we weren't tracking enough. Now we've got so much data available to us and really at our fingertips. But anytime that people try and spin a story based on, this one thing, it's just a little, my spider senses start tingling. It's like, okay, yes, but what about X? And hearing some of you asking these questions, brilliant. I love it. This is one of my favorite case studies, because of what actually happened versus what this chart is telling us. Before I reveal that, I'll just show you some of the things it could be saying. That the product performance is really fast, really reliable, no downtime. The user journey is really smooth and intuitive, and the support experience. So if people are raising questions, FAQs, they're being handled quickly, efficiently, politely, and so on. What this might not show is that churned customers, so customers that are basically leaving. So you might have 100 active customers, 50 leave, 50 join. So overall, your numbers are the same, but actually your churn rate is really high. You don't get that from this chart. You don't know what the customer segment splits are. Are they surveying everyone, or are they surveying different groups at different times? To your point, Ruth, could also be that revenue is falling, or the cost to serve is through the roof. Now, what actually happened here is really quite unfortunate. So in July, sort of June, July time, a competitor product came into the market. And over this 6-month period from July to December, this company lost half of all of their paying customers. So their revenue as an organization, their income just fell off a cliff. What they had done just before May, June, around that time, they had spent a lot of time optimizing the onboarding experience so that new people coming into the product had a really smooth, seamless journey for the first few months. So they're the people probably that are getting surveyed, because they're the active customers. Half of your customers have gone, your revenue has tanked, but the people that are there are having a lovely time and enjoying it. So there is some positive there, Ruth, to your point around optimism. But actually, if you introduce the financial element here, it's been an absolute car crash. And not for any fault of their own either, just market forces, competitor coming into the market. So you definitely, oh, actually, sorry, there's one more thing here. It's just the other stuff you can look at in relation to this. But what I find helpful, you're starting to really get into this now and start to match different metrics and different types of metrics. But I find it's always useful to have a framework, even if it's just quite a loose framework. So I'm going to offer you a quick test that you can do when someone shows metrics, or even if you're creating metrics and you're going to send them out and present them. So I'll just give you this model. So there's 4 questions that you can ask. And it's the first one is around the counter metric. So we've spent a bit of time on that today to really make that land. So what's the other metric? What's a nice balanced metric here that would tell you when you look at them together whether it's a good or a bad thing? So when you're looking at them in combination, what are you seeing? Thought I heard someone there. Was there a question? No. Okay. Next one is review, and this is around that organizational context. Like, what's actually going on here? Have we just introduced a new tool, or have we had to do a massive platform migration project? Have we downsized some of the teams? Have we had some consultants come in that have really accelerated things in a certain area? Whatever it is, but check in. Okay, what's the context here? Has anything happened organizationally in order to make an impact? The next one is the attribution question. We touched on this briefly around the attribution between time and and a reduction in defects. That is a definitely, you can attribute that. There's a causal link there for sure, but it doesn't tell you the reason. So you have to be very careful in your commentary and what you're claiming that these things mean when you introduce them. So can you confidently, in one sentence, make that attribution that because we're seeing this data, it means this? What you don't want to be saying is what I know Ben and I have spoken about this, just people saying it's going in the right direction. It's okay. It's look at it. It's yeah. And the final one here is the payoff. This is the so what. So if you really do focus on a particular metric, lots of people are talking about it and get excited about it. Is that a good thing? What's actually going to change as a result of that? What's the behavior organizationally that this is going to reward? Also for your customers. And is that what you're actually after? So given that the talk is around bullshit metrics, I figured I had to get some sort of analogy in there or whatever you call this. But yeah, this is the crap test, TM. You're welcome to use it, adapt it to your own heart's content. But that concludes the main content for this session. So I'll pause for questions, and then I've got a couple of slides just to wrap up.
Are there any questions for Noel?
Yeah, maybe a question is what are the graphs that could help us to understand the whole picture, maybe in general?
Mm-hmm. Would anyone like to take a punt at answering that before I jump in?
Well, perhaps there's no single graph, depending what you want to show. So yeah.
Absolutely. If I go back to this, all of these things, and these are just some metrics in these buckets, that there's hundreds of different measures that you could have in each of these buckets. So my answer to that, Igor, would be in line with Alex and say there's very unlikely going to be one chart that tells you everything you want to know. What I would encourage you to do, though, is go back to the overall mission or goal that your team or your department or your organization is trying to achieve and find the things that tell you whether you're having an impact on that. And that can narrow things down a bit. If you've got a very specific goal, very specific target, that should naturally lean the metrics down to focus on the right things. Any other questions?
Yeah, may I just quickly, just interested in your personal opinion on team metrics. So every other metrics, you know, around attribution and customer satisfaction is above my role, and I care about team metrics. And I feel like in the organization where I work, team metrics is becoming a very popular word. And I love the forecasting, which can give a bit of reassurance to the stakeholders. But I'm absolutely not a fan of any other team metrics otherwise, because I feel like if the team is working well together, if they have a good, whether Scrum Master or product manager or, all of them, then I don't need a graph to tell me where the bottlenecks are. I know where they are. So I wanted to ask your personal opinion on how you personally would use team metrics and what would be useful to concentrate on.
Yeah. Okay. I think team metrics are super, super important because as a group of humans working together towards a shared goal, you want to have something that tells you that things are going in the right direction. Ideally, you want to have a sense of the impact your product or your work is having on the organization or the customers. So from a product perspective, I would definitely be challenging the product owner to provide some insights into the impact of what we're doing and how that ties into the organizational goals. I think from a flow and an efficiency point of view, I'm interested because my specialism is in delivery and helping organizations kind of optimize their delivery processes. So I'm always interested in things like throughput, cycle time, because if you've got a baseline, then you've got something to work on. And even if it's really going well, but something happens and you see a dip, that's a signal to do something. So I generally would look at some kind of product customer metrics, some flow metrics, but I'd also try and get some behavior metrics in there as well. And what I mean by that is things like the Spotify health check. Um, so, and it only needs to be run maybe once every 3, 4 months. But just some sort of check-in to say, how are we feeling about a bunch of different things? And, let's take a step back from the day to day and talk about, do we feel supported by our managers? Do we actually have fun together, or has it become a bit dry? Because you can plot that as well on a heat map, and you can compare that with previous quarters or however often you do it. So yeah, sometimes, rarely these days, but sometimes I am asked to go in and work with a single team, and absolutely I would be looking at all sorts of different metrics to try and see how best to help.
If I could quickly chime in there as well, again, like you
Please.
rightly said, so what are we pairing it with? So the team could be the happiest team in the world, and
Yes,
are they delivering value?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly that. You could have the best job you've ever had, but you're actually having no impact on what the business is trying to achieve. You're just, kind of tickling around the edges and having fun together. But absolutely, yeah. And that's incredibly motivating as well. Like, yeah, you want to have fun. Absolutely. I want to like the people that I work with and be able to work well with them. But I also want to know I'm having an impact, because otherwise, what's the point? Thank you, Idris. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna move on. Please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I post regularly on there about metrics and these kinds of charts and these kinds of conversations. You may have noticed over my shoulder, there is a book behind me called Agile Bullshit, which I co-wrote with someone a couple of years ago. So if you're interested in my style of kind of poking fun at things and highlighting the anti-patterns, there's a whole range of things there around more general agile practices. And if you're in an organization that has a problem with metrics, and you're working with someone maybe at a senior level, or you're a senior level yourself, and you need an external pair of eyes to come in and help provide an objective opinion, then that is what I do. That is what my business has been designed to do. So there's a QR code here that will just take you to my company website. But I've got the start of my funnel is something called Finding Clarity, which is basically, let's come in, do some discovery, look at all the data that you've got available to you and see what that's telling us, but also what's missing and what we might want to find out instead.